Doing what you have to do, we don't stop for those formalities. Good afternoon, welcome to the Rotary Club of Wellington, serving humanity from the heart of Wellington since 1921. Very fluid 10 days or so, as you appreciate from it. And we've still got ramifications of that, and it's playing out probably over the next year as a country, I think. We were today to have as our guest speaker Judge Kirsten Smith, Chief Executive of Evolve. Because of Evolve have experienced property damage and therefore Kirsten has requested that we delay her talking until 2017. But we are lucky at short notice. Anya Satyamand, Chief Executive of Tauhei, which is a translation for young person. Anya is the Chief Executive of Tauhei, which is a Wellington-based national youth development organisation, and at short notice has stepped forward, but is a great substitute. Anya, thank you for doing this. And Gillian Jones will be the introducer and thanker for you, Anya, and John Luxton is the transferred over Sergeant, and he foolishly told me that he was the sergeant for last week and he got out of it. So thank you for volunteering, Bob. Could I just get you to check your mobile phones are on silent and that you're wearing your name badges. And visitors. No, too early for sergeant session. That's good though. Derek, could I ask you to introduce your guest, please?
Colleague David Johnson, David's with GNS and Massey University.
David, welcome. World Travellers returning. Welcome back. And World Travellers departing. It's good that people who do that because I generate quite a lot of revenue off repeat travellers. Could I ask Peter Cullen to say grace, please?
God, we meet in gratitude that no lives were lost in Wellington with the recent earthquake, although we're saddened that 2 people died down south. We ask that you take away our fear and our continuing anxiety and that of our families over future quakes. These recent events remind us that many problems in the world where people live in constant fear, whether because of war, food or water shortage, political repression, or whatever. But it does remind us of the number of people in the world whose constant state is anxiety. Lord, give us the strength to carry our burdens and gratitude for all that you have given us. Amen.
Thanks, Peter. Birthdays from the past week: Charles Finney on the 16th, John Hall on the 18th, and Leanna Day on the 19th. Could I have, now for the earthquake, I've just got some general business slides before we have the sergeant session. The first one is, there are people in the club who have suffered damage. If you need help, let us know. You don't have to do it all yourself. We've got support we can provide. So if somebody does need support, please let us know. It's interesting from a global perspective, both from the zone and from the club perspective. So here's an example of some of the emails we've got from the Rotary Club of one of the Rotary clubs in Nepal. We will pray for your survival and protection. And then from Rotary International, there are a number of parts of launched appeals of which we are linked in with, and the Australian Rotary clubs are linked in and want to make a difference as well. And Then you can see some Rotary clubs doing things unilaterally, and you can see there from Martin, one member took a tank cleaning and water purification unit over as part of that. So we are linked into the zone, we're linked into the district as part of the response for that. And part of that is looking at whether sky hydrant gets deployed or not, and there's quite a lot of work going in that space. So it comes back to the first point, if somebody needs help, please let us know. In general business, Dame Patsy and Justin Lester, the new mayor, have both confirmed that as honorary members of our club, and we're delighted to be so. Congratulations to Kerry, who in the Wellies recently became Wellingtonian of the Year in the government category. For those, and most members would know, Nick and Christine Hurley, as they come back out of their diplomatic post in Rarotonga, are transferring back to the Rotary Club in mid-December. Connected to that, it's breaking, the dates were breaking news to me, and I haven't put it up there, but it's congratulations to Martin Matthews, sitting in the room here, who has been confirmed as the Auditor General, with a big Sad bit is, Martin is not allowed to serve inside an organisation when he's Auditor General. So I've said before our club could confirm his appointment, his brother has to start, so there's at least one Matthew still remaining in the club. So Martin, it is congratulations from all of us on your appointment. Margaret Brown, after breaking her hip, having been through Kenapuru, is back in Malvina Major. Apologies from Denzel for today, and thank you to all of those who have helped support Denzel and Margaret over the last couple of weeks. Margaret being back in Malvina Major should ease the logistics burden for Denzel quite a lot. The centres to listen for confirmed this week that made 28,103 for charity distribution, of which you can see there 18,000 went to Gillies Macindoe and 9,000 went to Kerry Takanoa Foundation. Because of work pressures, and it tells you something about the work and family pressures or personal pressures, Andrew's standing down from the Youth Committee Chair for a period, and Tracy will take over, and Andrew Miller standing down from Vocational Leanna Day will take over. It's really, it's a capacity issue for both of them. This week we have a cluster meeting and a board meeting, and I'll give you some feedback next week. In other general business, we have an awful lot of requests, and I covered it 2 weeks ago, particularly for the Lions Tour, that there are people looking for places to stay. So you can see there, there is some international students around that for next year, but there is a Welsh group wishing to come. Now, the attraction they've got is they already have 4 tickets purchased for 2 of the host families as a motivation. So if you're into that, then speak to Rebecca from it. Somebody from a couple, Petra and Tony Meeson from the Rotary Club of Rugby, Breakfast Club, are coming and also looking for a host family. And then we've got a couple of outside of the Lions Tour, the Taiwanese Rotary Exchange, and then the Bangalore Cantonment Exchange. So if you're into that and you're wishing to host somebody, see Rebecca so we can help to start coordinate that. Next one, please. Scam alert. If you aren't aware of it, there is a Rotary scam alert using Rotary International and John Kuko's name. Please be careful, and we'll put it out, but don't get caught by it. Next one, please. We will put out shortly the Survey Monkey. Now we've done the samples of location, food, and costs for you to make a decision on. We'll confirm the Survey Monkey questions tomorrow at the board meeting to see what we want. The James Cook has said they can't do a late option, they can only do a mid and full buffet option, and the Wellington Club can do a light and mid-range option. So expect the Survey Monkey shortly. Next slide, please. And I think that's the last of my slides. And now, John, you are on. As John comes up, the person who was to be sergeant, they know who they are. It should be a very good.
Thank you, President Mark. I got the first part of the name right anyway. I did do quite a bit of research, but I haven't got all the information here. But I thought we should find out a little bit more about a family called Trump. How many wives has Mr. Trump had? 3. One who said 4. I should put some money into the bin. He has his eldest daughter is named Bianca, and her husband is, anyone know?
Who's the man running the show?
Because nobody knows who's running the show, then you should put some money in the bin. Jared Kushner, and there is a small issue. He seems to be wanting to be on the White House Star. Does anyone know why he can't be on the White House Star? Nepotism Act, that's right. So one table got it right, the others can put some money in the centre please. Now, he has a family. Does anyone know the age range of the family, the children? No? The oldest is in the mid-30s, and the youngest, whose name is? Darren, is how old? 8 or 9, yeah. So again, one table got it right, the others did. Because I've run out of things on the Trump family, I thought I should ask the club, do we have any members who are an officer of the House? They're all very slow, but Martin's new role as Auditor General is Officer of the House. We also have a couple of members who have been officers of the House. Anyone name them? Lady Susan's got the answer for one. And the other? Beverly Wade. And we also have one member whose brother is an officer of the House. Do we know who that is without the person actually answering? John Bush's brother. That's right. So, I've gone away without asking or making any comments about the dairy industry. So I probably should start again. But no, certainly our thoughts go out to some of those people who are really suffering down in the northern half of the South Island, particularly in the farming community, around Kaikoura, Waiau and Colbert. These things often are very, very dramatic, particularly for the families involved, so it's good to recognise them on a day such as this and put a little bit more money into the kitty for the earthquake work that's being done. Thanks, President. Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. In a very fluid window, could I ask Donna Dentis for the 5-minute talk to come up and talk about the J.R. Mackenzie Youth Education Fund, please?
President Mark, guests and fellows. The Rotary Club of Wellington administers the J.R. Mackenzie Youth Education Fund, and this is done on behalf of the J.R. Mackenzie Trust, which provides the money to the fund.
Try moving it down.
Grant Urich is the chair of the fund, and Denise Church and I are trustees. And Rebecca, of course, does all the administration. The fund receives an annual grant of about $80,000, depending on the financial performance of the assets held by the parent trust. And the purpose of the fund is to encourage and enable students to attend school, in the belief that success in life is largely dependent on educational attainment, and that educational attainment is largely dependent on regular attendance at school. And the way in which the fund works is to provide funding for school uniforms for needy students. In the past, we only accepted applications on behalf of individual students, with supporting documentation as to the level of need from either the local Rotary Club or from organisations such as Birthright. But this is a very time-consuming process, both for the applicant and for the verifying organisations. And we were conscious that we were missing a large section of our potential clientele. Applicants had to know about the fund, they had to have the ability to source and orchestrate an application, they had to know how to get an endorsement from an independent body for that application, and for many of the families involved this was all just too complicated. So, about a year ago, we decided to generate another application pipeline, in addition to the individual application. This was in the belief that schools know their students well. They were in the best position to judge whether a young person needed a warm jersey or perhaps a pair of watertight shoes. So we decided to bulk fund targeted schools with money that they could use for this purpose. Now our district goes from New Plymouth in the north across to Dannyburg, down through the Wairarapa and down to Wellington. And we approach schools in the decile 1 to 3 range throughout this region, and we offered them a bulk grant which they could use to provide school uniform for the needy students according to the system that would suit them best in that particular school. All we wanted in return was a report once a year detailing how this money had been used and what difference it had made. The system is now in place in 14 decile 1 to 3 schools. And to give this new system a human face, I'd like to read you the report we got from Pororua College at the end of last year. So, report on the use of the funds for uniform. Report prepared by Susan Jungerson, Principal. The senior management team developed a plan for the use of the $3,500 for uniform, and then the plan unfolded as follows. 1. We assisted 49 Pororua students to get into full school uniform. Of those 49, 13 were Maori and the rest were Pacifica students. 2. The issuing of the uniform items was, I admit, somewhat random to start off with, because we were unsure of how to approach the subject of insufficient clothing, without shaming the student, who was likely to respond immediately by avoiding to tell us how things were at home. So we took a discipline approach at first. We would go into the classrooms and would spot those out of uniform and would remove them and instruct them to go to Phil and Con's office. These staff members were our community liaison officers, who have an excellent relationship with students in whānau, and who could and did extract the necessary information from the students. The system was that Phil would then ring home and ask the parent firstly, did the student have such and such an item of uniform at home? And secondly, would the parent agree to the college supplying such and such an item for free? B, they would then ask the parent to support the college by ensuring that the student would wear full school uniform thereafter. And C, we would lodge the information to whom the uniform was given and what was given on a database. That set the precedence, apparently. It was not a shameful thing, because then our pastoral leaders were able to identify other students who needed uniform, and this was able to be distributed using the same system noted above. So, some things we now know and some we learned along the way. When Phil rang some parents, some of the mums cried when they heard that the college was aiming to do that in this instance. One student, who has a very long history of crises and traumas, once stepped out in complete uniform, stopped his truanting, and came to school every day and has since engaged well. One dad told us that the only thing stolen from his Year 10 daughter's laundry from down at the laundromat was Pororua College uniform. It is in demand. Several parents told us that they keep their child home because their uniform isn't complete, and they didn't want their child to get into trouble. They were working on getting the money together to get the clothing. Some parents won't start their child in Year 9 at the start of the year because they haven't got uniform. Students have a fierce pride about their families and will rather lie about their clothing situation than tell us how things are. Actually, some parents are like that too. We've since surveyed our parents on parent-teacher evenings about the uniform. 100% of parents who replied want uniform. 74% stated that they found the uniform difficult to afford. We then surveyed our students, and surprisingly, of the replies thus far, 80% want the college to remain a uniform school. Shoes are amazingly problematic at Pororua College. We expect plain black shoes to be worn, but we get all sorts of different things, such as black socks and black jandals over black socks, bedroom slippers, or cheap Chinese slippers with some glitter on them. Sometimes a household will have more people than black shoes, and whoever needs the shoes those days will get them. Uncles and aunties have first preference, it seems to us. So we brought a selection of plain black shoes from the funding, and we've distributed most of these now on the same basis as noted above. In conclusion, the funding has been extremely useful in helping out some very needy students. It's been useful in helping us too to better understand how stretched many of our families are to meet the basic necessities of supplying a uniform, which they all want. Given the opportunity to distribute uniform items to families have meant we were able to look at the other side of the problem. From the school side, it's always been about compliance with school expectations. The other side of the coin is that families want their children to look flash, and their children want to look flash. And we now understand the problems better. We are seeing that getting over the hurdle of not having a full set of uniform will markedly improve the students' attendance record. And it would be a very positive thing if we could capitalise on this beginning and continue to make a good school uniform accessible to all families. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. It makes you reflect really on New Zealand society and where we're at as well. Take till 1 o'clock in fellowship and coffee and dessert, and then see you back here at 1. Thank you.